I'm going to try and speak briefly and candidly about this whole situation and why I'm embarking on it. And first, I'm going to close my doors because it's noisy outside. I've decided that I want to try and write a book by hand. By hand, no computers, handwriting only, notebook only. I wanted to buy a cheap and universally available and standard size and readily replicable notebook. I live in Japan, I live in Kyoto. Campus notebooks are easy to source. I wanted it to be light blue because I like the color. I don't know if anything I have to write will ever have an audience, which is humbling and grounding to say, because as a child, I used to have complete and total confidence that I would someday be a writer, someday be somebody who publishes books and, engages with the written word in as a lifestyle and as a career. And in some ways I do, because I have spent the majority of my whole adult career as a copywriter and content creator and content strategist in marketing, which is, kind of sort of doing that, but it's not doing that in the way that I originally intended as a child, which was, in the worlds of novels and memoirs and things like that. And I feel like that is one of the three things that if I don't actually do in my time alive on earth, I will regret it and haunt this mortal orb as a ghost forever after. I also am having an existential crisis with the advent and usurpation of AI on the creative world. I am not even being a purist about it. I do think that there is a positive impact that AI can have on some things. I know it's environmentally disastrous in the way that it's currently formatted and the way that it's taking over all creative endeavors and just going to make more opportunity for misinformation is the worst possible use case for this technology. And it surprises me not at all that this is where we've ended up. So I am writing this with no audience. I'm writing this for no one. I don't know if anyone would ever read it, even if it did get published. That's kind of, it sounds defeatist. I hear it. I know it sounds self-effacing and defeatist to say it even before anything is even written. That being said, I think it's also liberating because now I'm writing only from a place of I need to do this because this is how I stay alive. This is how I exist as a human and can evaluate myself with dignity when it comes time to die. That sounds so dramatic. I hear it. It's also true. So I don't have any lofty aspirations for this project. It's a super humble project. This cost me 200 yen. This cost me 100 yen. $3 in total, and this is where it starts, right? I also have been notoriously bad at finishing things, which is a creative challenge for creatives all around the world. I'm not unique in that, and so I don't know necessarily if this is something I'm going to see all the way through, and so I guess I'm just trying to meet myself where I am, which is, as somebody who may have had some talent evaporates without practice, without application, without rigor, and without consistency, and I have had none of those things. I've had no rigor, no consistency, no application, and no practice beyond the commercial realm. My current occupation is quite creative in comparison to some of the other jobs that I've had, and allows me to step a little bit more into that space of creative writing, which I appreciate and I think has helped spark this reinvigoration of sorts. But I remember the kind of writer that I was as a young person, like in my late teens, early 20s, in high school, and even as an 8-year-old elementary kid. Like not that my stories were good, but I was writing. I was writing a lot, and it meant a lot to me. And I think I just assumed that talent would always be there. I'm just approaching this as somebody who hasn't done this before. I've tried to write larger project stuff, and some of it's been okay. But I have never written a book start to finish. And I think that is something that is necessary for me to do existentially. And I don't even want to have the temptation or the excuse of digital influence, really. Like, I say I'm not a Luddite. I use my computer every day. Like I said, I use AI. I use it to, I live in Japan, I'm learning Japanese, and so I use it for that. So I think that there is a place for it. I think it's just the people who are directing its flow have directed us into like a really bad state. Anyway, all to say, I don't even want to tempt myself with the possibility of like running my work through AI. I don't want to ask it for feedback. I don't want it to give me constructive criticism. And I don't even think that it's necessarily bad at those things sometimes, but it's incredibly sycophantic when it does. Like anytime that you talk to ChatGPT, it's a suck up, it's designed that way. It's designed to, make you feel good and special, and it's just feeding an individualist sense of exceptionalism that is not helpful. That is not helpful collectively. So I don't want my work, at least in this realm, to be influenced with that. I need all the help I can get learning Japanese, so I'm happy to use it for that. I know that will turn some people off, that I am not a purist about this. I'm not a purist about most things in life. I don't think many people are purist about most things in life. So this is an incredibly reality-based endeavor. There is no pretending, there is no assuming that this is going to be a glorious opportunity and that I'm going to write the next best American novel. This may be trash. I'm writing it without an editor. I no spell check, no nothing. This will probably be quite trash, but I think it's also quite important. It's important to me to put literal pen to literal paper. I feel so detached in the digital realm these days. I feel so detached from all things real. And another thing about living here in Japan, because I just moved here I've been here for less than a year, almost a year, but it has been incredibly grounding in the sense that I touch grass every day here. Every single day I am touching grass in a way that I didn't before. And it throws my engagement in the digital world into sharp relief. And it's harder to look at what I'm doing online, look at that as something that's benign. Like maybe we all logically know that spending hours scrolling is not good for us, but it's also just detaching us from a sense of reality in a way that feels so painfully obvious now that I live here and I go out and walk by the river. And I understand that not everybody has a river to walk by. So this isn't a judgment. This is not me judging people for not, detaching from an online space when that's like their only form of escapism in a world that's increasingly dark and bad. It has for me been educational to realize how numb I become when I spend too much time in the digital world. And it's just like, it's infinite. There's infinite tabs. There's infinite, documents that you can open and close and forget about and save over and rewrite. Just nothing is tangible. And I'm not even, again, I'm somebody who loves Notion. I write in Notion all the time. I spend a lot of time on YouTube. I used to read a lot of digital books. But these days, I'm just feeling like I need to read a physical book that I can hold in my hands, not because I'm a purist about things like that, but just because I feel like I need to reattach to reality or else I'm gonna lose my mind. And I understand that other people will lose their mind if they attach to reality. And so that's why they detach and, spend several hours scrolling a day, which I can't judge because I have done that and will continue to do that, but hope I do less of that. Anyway, this has become a bit of a monologue. I am going to try and write a book. I honestly don't even know what about. I have several ideas. I don't know if I'm going to pick one that's just been lying dormant for the past several years, if I'm going to try and find something new. What will likely happen is I'm just going to take the first couple of pages in this, make an index, and then I'll use this. It's not going to be like chapter 1 and then start from there and go. That's not how I work. That's not how my brain works. This is just going to be a dumping ground for what I hope will eventually become a book, because I think I need to write a book in order to feel like I've successfully lived out my life here on Earth as a human, as dramatic as that is. All to say, I don't know what I'll have to offer you in terms of content. Obviously, I do content for work and have done that for 7 years. I am not trying to make my downtime super fancy content scape, and I know that will not garner me any success in the digital realm, but again, I'm not trying to do anything for the sake of success anymore. I'm just trying to do it to, I don't know, prove I exist, I think is really what it is. I think this is probably all comes down to a fear of death, like most things do in life. Anyway, I'm going to stop now and say thanks for listening. Maybe it gave you something to think about. And if you have any creative projects that you're harboring in the back of your head, I'd ask you to think about ways to make them real. I think there's a lot of value to be had in the discomfort and awkwardness and disorganization that seeing what your thoughts actually look like in a physical space on a 2D plane or a 3D plane. I challenge you to do something in the real world. So little of our world is real anymore. So do with that what you will. Maybe I'll post more about what? I don't know. I don't even know what the book is about. We'll find out. Maybe together, maybe not. We'll see.